Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Digital Nomad World weekly series. I'm Becky, and I'll be your host. And today we're going to be talking about how to prime your small business for rapid growth with my guest, Mashon Thomas. Mashon, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
So happy to have you and talk about something we have not covered on this show, how to grow a small business and how like the things you can do to really get things organized at the beginning. But so we can get organized, I love to start by asking my guests about their background and their own digital nomad journeys. So can you share that with us, Michonne?
Yeah, sure. I came to digital nomadism by accident. I guess I always loved travel, wanted to travel the world, live abroad, but I actually became a middle school teacher. So it was quite grounded for much of my early career. I had the summers off, but then I wasn't making enough money to actually be able to go and travel. And I was kind of surrounded just by people who didn't really understand that desire either. Like, why would you want to go live somewhere else? Like, everything is fine right here, you know? But it's just like, I had this desire to go and see places and to experience different, cultures and eat different food and meet different people, that kind of thing. So it's always this kind of dream in the back of my mind. So I left teaching at 30, determined to make a different life for myself. I found work with a remote company and I thought that that was, dream come true. I could finally do this. But after 10 months there, I got laid off. And so I was just like, well, wait a minute. That gave me freedom, but it was also taken away in the blink of an eye with a layoff. So that doesn't quite sound like what I want. I want to be able to control, my destiny, my life, like my income. And so I found out about freelancing and decided to give that a try. So jumping into freelancing with everything I had, no experience, but just this desire, determination to learn. And I had this goal in mind of like, if I can just make enough to go live abroad, to go travel the world, to go kind of, realize this dream. That was just the fire that was lit in me. And it was a great carrot, dangling out there. I just kept focusing, kept working on it, kept plugging away, and moved to Colombia, Medellin, Colombia in 2018. That was my first, jumping off point. Left the States with a one-way ticket, and have only been back to the States once since then, actually. So I'm now doing the thing.
Wow, what a journey. Thank you so much for sharing, especially like I don't think we've had someone who had a remote job and then they lost it, but then that drive, I can only imagine how that would have felt to like lose that freedom and the freedom of location. And you're like, I want to get back to that as soon as possible. And to find it with freelancing is such a great way because as you said, you make the journey for yourself. And you didn't mention this, but we talked right before we got on. You're also from Ohio just like me. You're from Columbus. We got to talk about Ohio represent because
Yes.
we know what it's like to come from an area where I would say a lot of people don't have that traveling lifestyle. They don't grow up with it. So I know how much you must have worked to get away from that mindset and then to have this like, oh, you're traveling mindset and get out there. So congrats on that.
Agreed, agreed. Thank you. Yeah, I love the Midwest. I love like, meet people from all over the world and you can tell instantly like you're from the Midwest. Okay, yeah, yeah. But yeah, there's not as much of a sense of like role models, or I didn't know anyone who had gone out and done, what I really wanted to do. So it was a difference to break away from that for sure.
Yeah, and the service of teaching, I'm sure you learned so much through that, but then it gave you this like, probably the knowledge and this passion to get out and see so much of, I'm sure what you were teaching and you would see every day and all these backgrounds with your students. So
Absolutely. And I've retained that desire. Like I now teach freelancing to others, and it's just because it's this incredible, just exposing somebody to something they didn't know was possible before. I have had moments in Ubers, moments on trains, moments on planes where I just meet people and they're like, well, what do you do? And I'm like, well, let me tell you. And I just like launch right into it. And they're like, wow, I had no idea. I had no, clue. I was in Croatia last year, and it's like my very first Uber driver the next day after I got there was a young kid in his maybe like early 20s, and he just like loved graphic design, but he just is like, there's not really much of a call for it here. No one understands it. And I don't know what I'll do with it. And I'm like, oh man, there's this whole world out there. There's these sites and you can do this, you can do that. So it's natural to me. I just want other people to be exposed to freelancing. What they do with it, of course, is up to them. But I just, it's not for lack of trying to get the message out there by any means. Very passionate about
yeah.
it.
And I heard that you actually went to 11 countries last year alone. Is that right?
Yes, I do a mixture of living places and then traveling. So I lived in three countries last year, I believe: Argentina, Croatia, and England. And then I just traveled to various ones. I spent a week in the Dominican Republic with some entrepreneur friends. I spent a week in Albania because I'd never been, and one of my girlfriends was going, and she's like, "And I got some other people coming too." And the flights were cheap, and it was a direct flight from Manchester, where I was at the time. And oh, Albania is incredible. The food, we just ate and drank good wine and good food for a week. And yeah, I'm still carrying the pounds from that. But I highly recommend Albania to people. But yeah, I like to have a base because with the work that I do with my clients, it is pretty intensive. Like they need me to be on. I'm running their day-to-day hours of their businesses. So I need to be involved. And for me, it's very hard to transition too often to different places. So I like to go to a place, get a home base for at least 90 days, sometimes up to 6 months, depending on how long the country lets me stay. And so with that base, I then can establish routine, I can establish a schedule, and then I can flex my time to run off to Albania or wherever for a week here and there.
That makes a lot of sense. And I haven't been to Albania either, so it sounds really interesting. And Croatia, what other countries are some of your favorites that you've been to?
Oh man. So I really love England. So I've lived there for 2 summers in a row. I'll say when I'm traveling and when you get tired of the language barriers, which can be exhausting in different countries, it can be nice to go back to a country where it's just familiar and easy. And that's England for me. It's not quite going back to the States, but it's similar enough, but with castles, So it's like, wow, this is cool. But it's easy to speak the language, easy to get around, easy to meet people. So I find myself gravitating toward England a lot. Ecuador is an amazing country. I lived there for several years because that's where I was living when the pandemic happened. So I just sort of sheltered in place and ended up staying for years. So I built some really strong friendships out of that. People who are like family. I was just back in December. I flew back for a wedding, and it was just, it's just like, wow, I can't believe I have this life that I used to want, or it's just like, oh, I have this wedding in Ecuador that I'm going back to. And actually, I've got one in April in the Philippines, and I've never been to the Philippines before. So it's just like, what is this jet set lifestyle? Like I can't believe this from my days teaching middle school, and I was in Florida at the time, but just like, what is this? But yeah, those are some beautiful places. And to me, Iceland is where I go when I need to be alone and reset and recharge. Like I did a 2 week camper van trip in Iceland a couple years ago, and Iceland's where I go. Like Iceland's so safe. You got the weather, but like it's just a safe feeling in that country. Like I just feel so loved by nature, and that the people are kind and friendly and everything is safe. And it's just, yeah. So I have all my little, I'm sure you do as well as you traveling to so many countries if you've been, but you've got your little favorites. You're like, I go here when I need this. I go here when I need this. It's like friendships, you just kind of have all those people in your life that bring different things to the table. And that's how countries are for me.
I love what you're describing because it's really, I think, the dream that people really want to achieve. They have a balance of like when they need to work, those places for certain
Yeah.
things, like you said, and it is possible. And you've already, detailed how like some of how you did it. What would you say if you had to pinpoint like two or three things that really helped you get to the point where you're able to travel like that? What qualities would you say were necessary?
Yeah, definitely. First of all, just this like, I'm going to do this mentality. Like, I knew I wanted to live abroad. I had no idea how it was going to be possible, but it was just like, I'm going to do this or die trying, like, I'm just like, there's no going back. And it was that kind of thing of getting that remote job and getting laid off was a very clear, I cannot go back to an office. Like, I have tasted what the other, the other side looks like, and I can't go back. So that was really helpful, just getting that mindset of like, I'm going to do this, period. Just don't know how, but I'm going to do this. The second thing that was really helpful, and I was thinking about this today with, I'm hiring a freelancer to help me with some work. And it's so important. I teach people this. I like my students, I'm always counseling, like, whatever job that you get, like, do your all. because you never know what it will turn into. This job that I posted on Upwork was like, I posted like for $50 for someone to kind of one off teach me something about Google Analytics. I'm about to pay the guy $2,000, right, to do this whole other big blown out thing because he did the thing and he gave more and his all, and then he laid out all these other things and all these other steps we could do and the timeline for that. And I'm just like, all right, that needs done. And I wasn't planning on doing it right this second, but the quality and caliber of his work, I'd be stupid not to just go ahead and get this done, like have someone take care of this for me, right? So $50 turning into $2,000, right? Like no matter what that job is, give it your all and you never know what it could turn into. Because that is how my freelancing journey started. A client hired me, honestly, it was probably about $50 as well. He had this really high performing blog post that was driving a lot of sales, and he wanted me to analyze it and see if we could sort of replicate it with these other posts. And I was like so excited. It was like one of the first things I ever did. So I'm just like, I'm going to give this like 3,000%. And I gave him all that. And he was like, wow, this is really good. Could you do something else as well? And he gave me something else little, did that as well. Same enthusiasm, same. And then we got on a call and had a heart to heart. And he was basically just like, I am tired. I am burnt out. I am running my business. I am exhausted. I just need someone who can just help me with everything, like a right hand person. Do you think you could do that? And I said yes. And that's how I got into what I do, which is operations management. So hundreds of thousands of dollars later, with that same client, plus with other clients, I now have a niche, helping people grow their small businesses, helping people systematize and create order. That all came out of just this enthusiasm for the small job that I was handed, and then kind of falling into something and being like, oh, I'm actually good at this and I like it. So let me continue to build this. So that is the thing that I really encourage people to do. Like, just because again, I hire hundreds and hundreds of freelancers, both for myself and for clients. So I've seen what most people are giving, and it's okay energy, right? So if you're that person that's giving, this sets you apart from everyone else energy, it's just boom, like it's just the sky's the limit. Because I'm in, the circles I move in now are other entrepreneurs, other business owners. And that's one of the things we get together and talk about. We just talk about the good people that we have, or this person that we're seeking. We're like, I need somebody who can do this and I need a good person. Do you know anybody? So you just never end up having to seek work. Work is kind of always coming your way. And I've had that in mind as well. Like I have had people that are like, so and so recommended you, or they talked about you in this group or that or the other. Do you have availability? And a lot of times it's like, no, because I'm booked up. I'm good. So yeah, that was a long answer to your question.
No, but that
I'm
was so
passionate about it.
valuable. Yes, thank you for sharing. And I was already thinking, I'm like, what are those things that make people stand out? Like, I'm sure delivering quickly, delivering on time at least, and delivering above and beyond
Yeah.
what is expected with a really great attitude.
Yeah.
I think that'll
Yeah.
take you really far as well. So let's jump deeper into what you do and how you got into this.
Yeah.
So from like you do help small businesses grow from what you had said, like 0 to about 4 employees, and you'll try to take them all the way to 25 to 30 employees. Is that your sweet spot?
Up
You're saying you have a
to
niche. Yes.
that's my sweet spot. Yeah. I love to get into a business when it is in chaos mode, right? Like that very beginning, early stages where everything needs done. And it's like there's not enough time in the day, there's not enough people on the team, there's not enough of anything kind of thing, right? So I like to help organize that and systematize that, and like let's fix one thing and let's get the wheels spinning, and then all right, what's the next thing that's broken? We're gonna fix this, we get that spinning, and then the next thing, and keep it going like that. I tap out towards the higher ends when it's got more more people, like let's say 25 and above ish on the team. It's more of like, all right, this is now a place where you need like serious rules. You need very much, you need order, you need all those things like performance check-ins and growth stuff and all the like, just, I don't do so well in that environment. I'm ADHD, I like the chaos, and I like something's wrong all the time kind of thing. So yeah, what happened was with my client was he had started a business, and it had taken off sales wise. Like money was coming in, but so were like customer service questions, and he needed help with product delivery. And he was trying to do it all. I think when I started with him, there were like one full-time person and like two or three part-time people, right? And now that client is like 26 people ish, something like that. So it's just getting those things and going, okay, what's wrong and how do I fix it? So it's like, okay, what's wrong? We have 250 customer service tickets that are outstanding, and we got another 50 today, and there's another 50 coming in tomorrow. And we have one girl that knows how to do this. What do I do? Right. So for me, it's fun to come in and go, all right, cool. I need an hour with that girl. I'm gonna like pull everything out of her brain. I'm gonna get this written up. I'm gonna hire somebody off of Upwork. I'm gonna start them on that. And I need to, somebody fast who's just like, I can do this. I can jump in. There's one girl on that team. I love her so much. She's actually out on maternity leave right now. She just had a baby last week, but she's been with that client for like 6 years. And it's like, do you remember when I hired you? Do you remember when it was like, hi, here's a 2-page document. Good luck. And that was kind of how it was in the beginning days, right? But then over time, things settle down and you're like, okay, let's retrain people. All right. And then things are still settled. And then, like, here, you really are excelling at this. So, like, you're in charge of this team now. You're the team lead. And then you keep with training and you keep it takes it from that chaos to smoothing it out. And I think what's fun for me about that is most businesses need two people running them. They need the idea person, the visionary, the person who's got all these crazy ideas and wants to do things yesterday. And then they need the person who implements and puts calm and structure and order and things like that into place. And my clients are the idea people, and they just want to do all these things. And I get to come in and kind of play this behind the scenes role, which is where I'm happy in life. To be honest, I'd prefer not to be in front of the camera. I prefer not to be, like limelight. I just want to like toil away and like get things done and check off boxes and make systems. So it's a lot of fun. And my favorite thing about what I do that I want to share with your audience is that very high income. If you can, I always say to people, if you can get in with people who you can show them how what you do contributes to them, growing, a lot of money to be made in that, right? So I help my client go from six people to 26 people. Is the business growing? Obviously, right? Like to be able to grow and bring on that many people, there was a need for it. But then the other thing I love is that I had no experience. It's self-taught. It's just like so many clients out there in all kinds of different industries are looking for people who can show up and do the work, like teach themselves, figure things out, organize things. Like I didn't have any. I mean, I ran a middle school classroom, which I guess could be experience for chaos and looping things in. But I didn't have any specific training in how to do this. It was just a matter of showing up and helping out. And I think there's more of a need for that than people realize. If you can show up and help out, and then also look for other areas, things that are broken that you can fix, you'll have work for the rest of your life, really.
Absolutely. So I'm wondering, like, would you say that I guess it depends on the client that you're working with, but would you say you're mostly a project manager, or are you teaching and doing the training yourself at the beginning? I guess you would say so, but yeah, what would you say you're
It
spending most of your time
is
with?
it is completely, yeah, it's completely customized to the client. Project management is a big part of it, but even so, again, it's not something that I'm certified in. It's not. I've had a lot of freelancers that are like, do you think I should go out and get a project management certification? And it's like, it's totally up to that person, right? If that's how you learn and that's going to be helpful and useful to you. With my clients in that chaos startup-y phase, it's more of like, it's just like drinking from the fire hose, right? Like the things that I've read and books I've read on project management, all that, like the struggle for me in my brain is like, it's so perfect. And it's like when X happens, do Y. And when this happens, do, and then in real life, it's just like everything is up in the air all the time. So I don't necessarily find a certification route helpful. Although again, no, if that's my learning style. But yeah, so project management skills are good. Organizational skills are always good, but just the ability to keep things in order. Communication skills, you're talking with so many different people on the team and helping to train and hand off. So clear communication is good. And again, just that attitude, the willingness to just jump in and do whatever needs done. Like there was a time in that client's company when I could do every role in the company. I can't anymore because we've grown so much and things have changed so much, and I'm getting looped in right on a monthly meeting, like, oh, really? We did that? That's cool. I didn't know that. But at that time, it was, I was heavily involved in everything. But there's a great book I want to recommend to people called Rocket Fuel, by Gino Wickman, and I forget the other author's name, but they talk about this a lot. They talk about the visionary and the integrator, and those two people at the top of the business. And I consider what I do the integrator role. So that book is a really good primer for just, and of course, that book is nice and neat and tidy too. But again, in the beginning, you're just jumping in and you're doing whatever needs to be done in order to keep things moving along. So there is a lot of drive and ambition in this role, like a desire to help and a desire to create order is really, really needed.
Mean, you're mentioning that you've had to hire so many freelancers in this role. I know that when people have small businesses, especially like zero or one employees, it can be really hard to feel like that investment is worth it at the beginning. But would you recommend, or how important is it to consider hiring and growing the team as soon as you can?
Yeah, so everyone's got their own comfort zone. For myself in my other business, because I have a business as well, like outside of the consulting work that I do for clients, but like I like to keep my team small, like right around 5 people is like a great, like it feels really good to me. For some people that's 10, for some people, it's more or less, whatever. But even if someone like what I find is that most people should hire sooner than they are, I think. At least one person to take off repetitive tasks that are done over and over. So getting that VA usually is a good starting point. Someone who, even if you hire a VA, let's say $10 an hour, or even 10 hours a month. I think a lot of people would go, there's nothing that can be done, and like it's not even worth it or whatever. But like that's $100. Freeing up 10 hours that are spent on things that you don't need to be doing as the small business owner is huge, because once you'll be surprised at how fast those fill up, and then you go, okay, I can probably free up another $100 for 20 hours a month. Again, we're just talking about really small things, but anything that is repetitive. So if you have to answer to customer service emails, for example, it's so simple to sit down and take an hour and record yourself doing it and then hand off to someone else. Creating a structured document with like, these are the, you know, I've had clients where it's as simple as like, these are the 5 questions we get the most. And then these are the 5 after that. And then with 10 questions, you're like, you can pretty much run our email, answer emails for us that we get in. So just systematizing little things like that. So it's stuff that you're not doing, because so many of us, you burn out so fast. You try to do everything yourself and then you burn out because you are the marketing person and the customer service person and the technical person and trying to run day-to-day operations and fix the budget and like all these things. So anything that can be done, what my advice would be, like, whatever you're doing routinely, get rid of it. Like give it to someone else.
Such
And
great,
I do
yeah.
have 2 quick tips on that, actually.
Oh,
If
yes, we
people
love
like, one of the
tips.
things that I recommend, um, I have started a spreadsheet which I call the over the shoulder doc. I think it's called Mashon's over the shoulder doc. And I will throw on Loom, which is a screen recording tool, like all the time when I'm doing stuff. And I just chuck it in the doc and I write a quick description of like what I was doing. And I pretty much record most of my working day. Just like, I was doing this, I was answering this email, I was talking to this person about whatever. And I just have that library built up so that when somebody new comes on, obviously depending on the level, but if I'm hiring somebody who's supposed to like replace me, like my operations person, it's like she doesn't have to ask me, hey, how would you deal with this situation? It's like, go to the library. I'm pretty sure I've documented it somewhere, right? So even before you're starting to hire somebody specifically, I recommend that people just turn on your Loom, and when you're in there answering emails, just take a Loom video of that and chuck it in the doc. So that way, yeah, it's so easy, because the idea, Dan Martell has a book called Buy Back Your Time, and he talks about the camcorder method, he calls it, but yeah, just recording yourself. And the idea being that by the time you do something 3 times, someone else should be able to do it for you, right? And that's what my library is, like this backlog. So I'm sure there's 3 videos in there of me answering my email or whatever the case may be. And then another really quick and simple thing that I have my team do as well across multiple clients and companies and things like that is I have something called a win card, which is win stands for what is needed. So it's the full card is like what is needed from Mashon. And we use Notion. You can use this in anything, but my win card over time it's become this verb or this noun, right? This thing. Like I'm just like put it in my win. Yeah, is that in tomorrow's win? Cool. Put it in my, like, and so I have someone on my team that manages my win for me. So they are constantly adjusting. This is the highest priority. Oh, wait, this other thing came in. That's the highest priority. And so when I get up in the morning, especially important, I have ADHD. When I come to work, and especially working across different businesses, I open my win and that's where my day starts. So I know that if people need things from me, it's in there in the win. So just developing that as a habit as well, I think is helpful for hiring because the more people you hire, the more things get scattered a little bit. But if people have that common place where they know that they can go to, and only one person is allowed to manage my win. So everyone on the team has to like get something to her and then she decides where it goes in the priority. But I found that to be an absolute just like it really works for me. So I hope that other people can benefit from that as well.
That's fantastic. So you mentioned that you use Notion. I did want to ask you what like tools and programs you found to be the most useful for working in these small businesses and managing them.
Yep, I've used Trello, Asana, and Notion over the years. No tool is perfect, and no tool will necessarily work for all different clients. I do enjoy Notion quite a bit, but there is the danger of it becoming too big. Like Notion is awesome, but Notion can also be like a beast. So we try to keep very specific rules about how we use Notion because you could nest stuff so deep in it that you never find it ever again. So it's tricky. It's tricky. But I would encourage people too to think about like I have worked with clients in multi-million dollar businesses and behind the scenes we're a mess. So again, just don't judge by the outside. Like if you look on Instagram, you look on anywhere, like everyone seems to be doing well, but I've worked in a lot of businesses that as I call them, they're held together with duct tape and spreadsheets. So it's just like, don't be worried if you're messy. Like I'm messy, other people are messy too. Like we're all just doing the best we can. And it's constantly, like every year getting better, but every year also generating more digital clutter. So
Yeah, but I love that, like, if you're helping them to have more success, then that success is going to keep breeding more success, creating more jobs for people. So,
absolutely.
and that's what you're doing now too by helping them. So I want to touch really quickly also on AI. I mean, I know with the advent of AI really coming in the last couple of years, are you seeing it being useful to you and it's replacing some people that you've had to hire, or where do you see that coming in the future?
Yeah, it is incredibly useful. If I could wish for one thing, it would be that I had more time to study it and use it even better. I know that I'm using like the tiniest percent. And I actually had on a team huddle the other day, I was like, guys, we need to be using this more. And I was like, how many of you are using AI like every day? And all their hands went up. And I was like, okay, good. At least you're over there doing stuff. But yeah, it's incredible. A lot of times for me, it's like an incredible springboard. Instead of starting from the blank page, you're starting with an AI base and then you're customizing that to what you need. I do think it will replace some people in some jobs by all means, but I think it's an incentive to get better. Like there are certain things that just can't be replaced by AI, at least at this point. So yeah, I think it where I'm looking at using it with my team is helping us to maximize time. So again, like just starting with those bases and being like, okay, now I need to give this to a human to flesh out the rest of it. So like it's doing the human does a bit at the beginning to give it the prompts, and then there's that middle part that it fills in, and then a human's coming in again at the end to tidy up, to organize, and to actually implement. So it's yeah, something that I definitely want to learn to utilize a lot more.
So many people could say the same. But yeah, I agree with you that it does seem more like a co-pilot or something laying the foundation. And then yes, I think we're not close yet to having it just doing it all for us, except for certain things. So I also want to touch on your podcast. You have a podcast as well called Live, Work,
Yes.
Travel. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, we are almost 50 something episodes now. And yeah, so my business is called liveworktravel.com. And so the podcast kind of goes along those three topics as well. It's about life in terms of, mindset and designing a better life because I am so passionate about people knowing that they can change their lives however they choose, right? So for me, the choice was drastic to like go and travel and live abroad, but some people that can just be things that they do where they are. But I'm really passionate about that personal growth. The work part is towards freelancing, towards growing your business, tips and advice on that. And also some travel stuff woven in, like how to juggle work with time zones, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, travel. I'd like to do a lot more on the podcast about travel as well, digital nomadism, and then also just being able to live however you want. Because I think sometimes nomading can seem like you're constantly going, but you can also just pop down and live somewhere for a while. So yeah, the podcast comes out every week on Mondays. And there is also, I have a weekly newsletter that comes out on Thursdays called Escape Hatch News. And that can be found at escapehatchnews.com, news.com. And that is very similar as well. I'm giving away, travel advice and tips and stories on how I made the jump into freelancing, left, the US to travel the world. Just it's those are both platforms for me to just share my knowledge with people because I'm so passionate about freelancing and travel.
Well, it sounds amazing. Everybody go check that out. And I think one word I would use to describe our interview is passion. I think you're saying go at what you're trying with passion, and it's your chances of success are going to be so much higher. And if you lose that first job, even as a digital nomad, there's so much work out there for you if you're passionate.
Absolutely. There's so much work out there.
It's growing and growing, even with AI out there. I think people are reading these headlines of like the jobs are going away, but I disagree. I think especially in the freelance world, there's so much out there.
I agree. So much opportunity.
Well, Mashon, is there anything else you would like to share with us before we go?
Just thank you so much for having me. This has been a really fun interview, and I hope it's been helpful for your audience. If people do want to also follow on Instagram, we'd love that. You can go to Live Work Travel IG on Instagram, and we're also on TikTok at Live Work Travel.
Thank you, Mashon. And from one Ohio lady to another, I wish you all the success out there. And I hope people go and check out your podcast and consider looking more into this line of work. If you like the chaos, if you want to start helping as a freelancer and getting things organized with small businesses, like we've just said, there's a lot of work out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you, Mashon. Have a wonderful day.